So it's a real pleasure to introduce Dr. Michelle Riba, who is indeed a pioneer in consultation liaison psychiatry, in psycho-oncology, and in many, many other ways. And one of the things that I think is most important to say is that you are a life fellow of the Academy of Consultation Liaison Psychiatry, and that you have contributed tremendously to our program and to our organization. And I wanted to certainly ask you about how the ACLP really played a role in all of the things that you've been doing. You've been president of the American Psychiatric Association, the 5th woman president, the 160th president, in an organization of which only 6.79% of the presidents were women. So you were clearly a pioneer there, clearly a pioneer in many ways. And I wondered if you could start with that.
Well, really, it's such an honor to have been asked to be interviewed by you, Marianne, because you are a pioneer and one of my heroes. So thank you for this. The ACLP has been, very much part of my identity. In fact, I think it was the first or second paper that I ever wrote as a resident. It was under the support of the director of Consultation Liaison at John Dempsey Hospital, University of Connecticut, Malin Hale, and actually Tom Wise, who was the editor at that time of our journal, who helped me with that paper about emergency clearance in the, in the emergency department. And so it was very formative for me to have mentors in the academy and to come regularly to the meetings. And we can talk a little bit later about the interface with APA, but I made a calculated decision a long time ago not to seek a leadership position in ACLP because I was busy with a lot of other things, but yet it's been such an important organization to me and to my work and to my friendships.
How would you say, what was it that actually got you into the organization? Was it that paper or was it something else?
As I think back on it, I was active in the AAP, the Association for Academic Psychiatry, and became president of that organization. But within that, we had a small group of CL psychiatrists who were very interested in education, but also in consultation liaison. Of course, at that time, we didn't have a subspecialty. So people like Troy Thompson, I remember going to those meetings, Phil Muskin, and those were the educators. Many of us became CL fellowship directors, in fact, later on. But I think a lot of us moved over from there more formally to the, our CL group and started publishing more than the Journal of Psychiatric Education, but more in the CL journal.
So what was the connection between the ACLP and the APA, and how did you enhance that process, connectivity?
Well, I think it was a team group effort, but I think I was in the right place at the right time, and just tried to be helpful. Maybe it has to do with consultation liaison becoming subspecialty. And I could tell you some of the background to this, because a lot of us remember it as sort of the name. You know, we had trouble with the name. What would it be called? And the first time it went to the ABPN, we got turned down related to the name. But the second time that we went up for this, there were more issues. It became more complicated. And a couple of the issues were the following. One was that by that time, child psychiatry had become a subspecialty. And within the training directors group, there were many who were worried that with more subspecialties, we as adult residency training folks and directors might lose that 4th year of adult residency training if there were more subspecialties. So that was an issue. The second was that geropsychiatry was ahead of us in getting the subspecialty status. And there were those in geropsychiatry who were worried that if there was a new specialty in CL, that would draw away recruitment and those interested in geropsychiatry. And I think they turned out to be correct, but there was that resistance. And the third was that there were many in the world of psychiatry and at the APA who were worried that as we got more fractionated with subspecialties, that there could be sort of a diminution of the house of psychiatry, and that these groups would go off on their own. And Mel Sapshin, who had been the medical director of the APA, had voiced that. He was worried about not having all these groups under one umbrella. So there were these 3 major issues. So when I was president of ADPERD, and we were tasked by the APA to try to figure out if the training directors were going to be supportive of having a consultation liaison psychiatry subspecialty. So, you know, I guess you might call it a conflict of interest, but in my mind, it was a good conflict of interest. And we were able to show that the training directors, at least the directors, and we did a survey, that we were in general supportive. That was the first thing. The second was that the Council of Medical Education under the APA, we had to get this approved by the council. And that was not easy. And in fact, as I recall it, Jim Levinson and Kostas Laketsos went before that council and tried to get the council to agree that it was a good idea to have the subspecialty, because we had to have the APA as the parent organization support this to go before the ABPN. And so they met with the council, and they did not, as I recall, get a good response. We met, we tried to prepare for it, and it wasn't met with, open arms, as I recall. So what we did was, I was secretary of the APA at the time and then became vice president. And we decided that this could go forth to the Joint Reference Committee. And we asked Tom Wise to come to that Joint Reference Committee to give the arguments about why this would be a good idea to have a subspecialty. And Tom was a very revered person at the APA, the journal, and then later book, Abbey Books. And so he came and he made a very forceful argument to the Joint Reference Committee. And we were then able to pass the resolution along to have this subspecialty. And we still weren't clear about what the name we would propose, but this would go forth to the July 2001 Board of Trustees meeting. And so I was tasked by our collective group to try to move this forward at that Board of Trustees meeting. And this meeting was held in Virginia on a hot summer day in July. And we decided that we would ask Tom Wise to come again and talk to the board. And so he did. He came in, looking like a Southern gentleman. He was at Fairfax at that time, and he wore a white brimmed hat, and he looked great. And so we were meeting outdoors. Actually, it was a Board of Trustees meeting outdoors, and I believe Paul Applebaum was the president at that time. And we had to really work hard to count the votes to figure out who at that meeting was going to be for it and against it. And I felt like I was sort of like a whip, on the House floor or the Senate floor, trying to figure out how to organize this and who should speak first on the behalf, and what points should be made. And Sherwin Woods was on the telephone representing the ABPN, and was also a very revered figure, and there were several people on the board who were members of his department. So that was, worrisome, and from Southern California. And Sherwin was making arguments about, why this should not go forward. And I believe, Jim Levinson and Costas and others had put the packet together, and we still weren't actually clear about what the name should be. We decided that we would go with the flow with what the board wanted. And the conversation was going on and on. Alan Tasman was very supportive. Paul Applebaum was very supportive. Tom did a great job. But I think at the end, there were two things that carried the day. One was that Sherwin was on the telephone and he was having trouble with the connection. So we couldn't, I think he wanted to speak more, but it was an outdoor meeting. And, in those days, so we lost him. And I think it was a little bit unfair, but he couldn't come back on to make some points about why it shouldn't. And the second thing was the potato salad. And there was this big bowl of potato salad that's sitting out there waiting for lunch. We were the last agenda item before lunch. And it was getting hot and humid. And coming from New York, people like me always heard from our moms that it's not good to have potato salad with mayonnaise in the sun. And, we were all eager to have lunch, and we were worried about the potato salad spoiling. So we had to try to hurry this conversation up. And I think it passed because Tom Wise, because of that poor connection with Sherwin and because of the potato salad. So it passed. And then we were, Costas, Jim, and I were scheduled to go. I think the meeting was going to be in Denver, but I can't 100% be sure. I can't remember that, but I think it was going to be on September 13th, 2001. And of course, that never happened because of 9/11. So eventually, a couple of months later, Jim did, and I don't know if Costas went with him, but they presented to the board, ABPN, and it got passed. And the name became psychosomatic medicine. It wasn't the name that the APA had recommended. But we decided that we would go along with that. And as you all know, we wound up changing it again. But I think that's sort of the gist of the story. When I became APA president a couple of years later, was able to set up a council on, I don't know if we called it psychosomatic medicine or CL, but and I think I asked Phil Muskin to be the first chair, and that was thrilling. And also when I became APA president, one of my themes was consultation liaison psychiatry, how important that was for the field. And then at the convocation, I asked you, Marianne, to introduce the speaker. And that was another thrill for me during my presidential year. So, and then over the years, there was a close relationship between the Council on Psychosomatic Medicine and the Academy, a very close collaboration. We worked together. We didn't want to have, I think that set the stage and how we did things between the Academy and APA. And then just one more thing, when I became deputy editor of Psychiatric Times, one of the things we decided, Alan Tasman was the editor, that we would try to work with a number of organizations and have those organizations have opportunities to write articles for Psychiatric Times that has a really wonderful readership on topics important for psychiatrists and other mental health clinicians. And one of the organizations we chose was the Academy. So even today, we still have regular articles, and I think you've written for Psych Times under that umbrella, so that we can really get at so much of the important work that the Academy is doing to a large readership. Just recently, I was asked to be a guest editor on psych cardiology, and asked Lawson Wilson and a number of our Margot Funk, Ted Stern, who wrote articles for that special edition. So again, this, trying to work together, using our resources, strong partnerships with allied groups.
You left out one important element in all of the work you've done, that some of which I was not even aware of, although I'm not surprised that you established the Council on Consultation-Liaison Psychiatry of the APA, or that you established a place in Psychiatric Times for CL psychiatry and for the Academy as well. But when you talked about how you helped from behind the scenes as APA president to get our accreditation to be a possibility, because the only way it could be is if it had the approval of the APA and the APBN. And you said really that it was the potato salad, the Tom Wise, and the poor connection with California. And you left out the biggest and most important thing, and that is that you were the person who organized the entire process and knew exactly who should speak and when they should speak. And okay, maybe the potato salad was luck and the connectivity was luck, but you did it and it wasn't luck. And that's what I think is important to recognize. And that's why it is an honor, and it was an honor for me to be able to do this interview and have you present what you've done. I wondered if you could tell us a little bit more about what it was like. You said it was really exciting and very special to see the convocation speaker at your presidency of the APA give a talk that was very much related to consultation liaison psychiatry. I wondered if you could tell me a little bit more and tell us a little bit more how that affected you and what that meant.
Well, it's important to me to bring in consultation liaison psychiatry to that meeting. And I had remembered talking with you about your role in this case. And so I thought it was just an amazing moment for me to hear you introduce her and have her walk across the stage with some difficulty, but she did it. And it was poignant to me because that's what we do, right? I mean, that's every day we're trying to help people who have had serious medical, surgical, and other illnesses reach their optimal potential. And, this was a wonderful example for everyone to witness somebody who, with the help that she got from you and many others. And so I was so grateful that you were able to, and I remember it like it was yesterday, in Atlanta, you introducing her. I don't know if you remember that, but.
Oh, it's just like it was yesterday as well. I can remember you, and I can remember her. I can remember everything about the moment and the little bell she used. And I just, the entire thing was just extraordinary. The thing that was hard for me was not crying, because it was such an amazing thing to see her really literally continuing to maximize her life potential. I saw her last year. She came up to see me because the people who were originally accused of trying to kill her were being released from prison, and there was a movie and an opera and a play being developed, and a documentary about it. And she had received death threats, and it was a crazy time. And she came up to see me, and it was wonderful to see how much she had developed and how wonderful she was doing. And now, that was a little over a year ago. And, I am concerned about her now because there's more things coming out, but we've kept in touch over the years. I never did psychotherapy with her. My role was only to get her through a 6-week period of first coma and then delirium. And I never took care of her when she wasn't in a delirium, and she never knew my name. She always called me Victoria, and never knew my name through the entire time. So she does now, and she's well, and she's overcome almost everything except for a tiny bit of diplopia and a very small amount of ataxic gait.
Yeah. I mean, her bravery and then coming down to speak to us was just thrilling. And I think she spoke for all our patients in some ways when she did that. And you spoke for all of us in consultation liaison. Such hard work, and sometimes you don't get to really the patients you're taking care of sometimes don't know who you are, or not really asked to see us in the hospital, and so sometimes it's really quite difficult work. So I just really so appreciated you doing that, and for her to come down.
Can you tell the people who are going to be reviewing the archive in the future what it was exactly that the Academy of Consultation Liaison Psychiatry has provided for you, and how you would like, what would you like them to remember about our organization from your perspective?
Well, a couple of things, I think our organization really cares about content and helping us learn and grow from each other's work. So it's a very substantive organization. When I go to our meetings, I try not to get distracted like I do at some other meetings, and actually try to go and learn from each other and value and respect what we're all doing. The SIGs, the interest groups continue throughout the year. They're very positive groups and are very meaningful. And I think we're very productive. I have gone to meetings and have done projects over the years based on sitting in a room and saying, I had never thought about that. And also go back and listen to a lot of the lectures. So the way the lectures are archived is brilliant. I love the way Bob Boland and others have put together questions ahead of time so that we really can see where we're at and have some pathway forward about learning at the meeting. It's wonderful to have fellows coming back and joining us at some social gatherings. As a fellowship director, I really value, our leaders in the fellowship directors community and the match, and that Wednesday night, fellowship directors meeting is so important. We don't meet that, once a year, but it's indelible in my mind that I need to get there for that. And when we've done this, even and we know each other, and even though we had to do this virtually this year, it was again so helpful because it and then the fellowship director showing us how we can do these virtual recruitments. It's important. So I think it's a small community of wonderful, everybody's so wonderful in this organization. We're increasing our training of our fellows in child and adolescent CL. And so, that's going to probably be an area of growth for us, and we'll try to work with our colleagues in the academy to help us with that, because we think that's a sort of an important area for training. And some of the other ideas we have for going for the future. So it's really enhanced me in terms of the meeting, in terms of the journal. It's very important. It's been wonderful to watch this grow under various leaders, and it's the go-to journal. I also very active in psych oncology. So so those are the two important journals for me in consultation-liaison psychiatry. So it's really I've sort of felt like I've grown up in this with my friends and with my colleagues in the academy. It's a small enough group too that you really can get to know one another, and and use it for our trainees to gain leadership experience.
How would you say that our academy has changed since you became a member? What was it like when you first started, and how has it changed? Definitely, you gave the most wonderful reasons. I hate to say it, but they're the same reasons that it's so meaningful to me. It's the best. It's inspiring and wonderful. But how would you say, since the time you joined to today, how has our academy changed and grown? And has it grown for you in the right direction, or should there be other ways that it could have
I think the Academy has tried to be nimble and listen to the needs of its members. When I first started, it was meeting in March. That was a long time ago. I don't even remember the year, Marion, but we used to meet in March, and that was a difficult time because many of us were also training directors. So we had a March, we always met in March for AdPERT, and it was just becoming very difficult for us all to get away for that, for the CL meeting. So I really appreciated when they moved to November. And so that was really good. And I think the program chairs have been terrific about trying to have balance in the program, to have updates, to have keynote lectures that were inspiring, and giving out information, so they were not fluff. They were really, hitting the marks. You can see the incredible organization and thoughtfulness that goes into the program. I love the posters. It's great to have a chance to talk to young folks and really get to meet up and coming leaders in the field. And I think all of us, young and old, really try to mix and try to mentor, be available and support. And then going from the meeting to the APA, we try to have opportunities to not just meet once a year, but to make plans to meet again at other meetings, to have a table of CL folks at the APA, and try to put on. And I remember for a couple of years we would have meet the experts breakfast at the APA, and I would have a lot of young CL folks, and we tried to help them with projects and mentor them, and then have them present at the Academy meeting in November. So, trying to keep this going for young folks. So, it's, I haven't really, I sort of thought of it as a continuum, that it's not, it's the same people at these various meetings, and how do we help and mentor and role model for folks who want to go into, CL.
Is there anything that you would like to let us know about what your future vision is for CL psychiatry? What do you see as what may develop in the future?
Well, it's interesting. If one were going to organize fellowships today, like a blank slate, I'm not sure we would do it the same way. To me, there's a lot of crossover between CL psychiatry, where we see there's a lot of need for addiction. We're setting up, for example, in our hospital, an addiction service. We like a consult addiction service, for example. And when we do our core lectures, we have the addiction fellow, the Gero fellow, and the CL fellow sit in together on many of the lectures, and over the summer they do boot camps. And so, I see the need for more cross training. And I mentioned before about the child and adolescent CL service being a terrific training for our adult CL fellows. So, to me, it would be a good idea to sort of put a pause button on. And if you also include the need for forensic training as well, there used to be a requirement for forensic residents to come over and to the hospital, but a lot of a lot of this has sort of been modified over the years, yet, you know, to me, there needs to be a lot more cross training. And how do we do that? You know, we don't want to get into trouble about giving the same training to all of these fellows because there are differences, but yet we really do need to help the various subspecialties learn from one another. So to me, that would be, you know, there might be some opportunities for innovative training ideas going forth. Now that we're sort of established, we have many CL programs now, and, you know, it's obvious that, you know, a lot of our residents are very interested in this field, but we're also seeing residents interested in family medicine, psychiatry, you know, double boards, or, you know, internal medicine, or the triple boards. And, you know, I think that may be telling us something about training. And I think it would be good to sit down and really think about this. There aren't enough residents, you know, to go around for all these different niches. And, you know, it may be a good time to sort of put together a group, maybe working with the training directors, maybe with ACAP, you know, with the addiction forensic gero groups, and really, you know, talk about this in an open and honest way, maybe looking at some surveys. You know, we find that people do these subspecialties, but don't keep up their boards over a number of years. And, you know, that's too bad. And, you know, maybe there'll be some changes about how do you know, not have to sit for an exam, but, you know, read articles. And I think the board, the ABPN, is looking at ways to do that, but it doesn't get to sort of some of these other issues, and it's complicated. You know, I think it's very complicated. So I think it's a good complication. I think we're realizing that, you know, we have to have more things in the toolbox. Our patients are complicated, and, you know, what are the ways that we can really shore up training and, you know, continuing medical education in the future. So I think it's pretty exciting to actually think about this.
Well, I think your idea is a really innovative one, and definitely an idea for the future. Thank you. Thank you so much. Is there anything else you would like to add? Because I'm just thrilled to have been able to hear your ideas.
Well, I just appreciate all that you've done in HIV, and, you know, we have sections in the World Psychiatric Association, and you've been a leader and pioneer there, Marianne. So, you know, I think that, you know, it's really just been an honor to have you as a friend and a colleague. And, you know, I think that at the end, that's what the Academy has done for me, to allow me to have friends like you, and to have colleagues like you. So thank you.
Well, thank you. And it's absolutely mutual. You've always been my role model, and you will continue to be. And it's very much appreciated. And I really think the work you've contributed has enhanced the APA, the AAMC, and clearly the Academy of Psychosomatic Medicine, Consultation, Liaison, Psychiatry. I think that you helped really make it happen, and I'm most appreciative, as we shall be. Thank you.
Thank you.